Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
One and all.
Welcome to Pandora's box. This is the last Pandora's box before Christmas, so this is officially a Christmas special. Thanks to all the friends of the pod out there this year. Out there that have been listening to us this year. We're going to have a nice little just chilled one with us lads today, talking about many a Christmas fact and just having bants as per usual. But before we get too jolly, let's talk about some of the worst things that have ever happened at Christmas.
Nice. Loving the twist already, man.
Oh yeah, man. Let's get got to get things, keep things a little bit dark.
On brand.
Because without the dark, you cannot appreciate the light, my friends. Some crazy things have happened on Christmas before, and I remember I was like checking out some of these the other day, and I thought, man, I would hate that if that happened to me on Christmas, right? So I don't know. Most of these I'd never even heard of before. So have you ever heard of the Christmas flood of 1717? There's a little tune written about this by a man called Irving Berlin, and back in 1937, and it was, "The snow is snowing, the wind is blowing, but I can weather the storm. Why do I care how much it may storm? I've got my love to keep me warm." So that was written by a man called Irving Berlin back in the day. Apparently at 1 o'clock on Christmas morning, floodwaters first washed across a large swath of farms and cities stretching from Holland to Denmark. The raging torrent swept thousands of people out of their beds and sent many more scrambling for the relative safety of trees and tall buildings. There they awaited rescue as severe thunderstorms, rain and hail continued to pound the landscape until water levels reached as high as 10 feet.
That's mental.
It wasn't until the next morning that the storm began to weaken before mustering one last violent punch later on again in the afternoon. By the time it was all over, and the skies had finally cleared, it was December the 27th, and 13,700 people were dead.
Damn.
As well as countless livestock and homes just being completely lost in the floods. But I was just thinking, imagine how savage that would be if that was you. It's considered one of the worst disasters, not just on Christmas, but of like European history. I just think, imagine that, like it's like Christmas Eve, you're like, oh yeah, it's Christmas tomorrow. And then obviously back in those days, they didn't obviously have like weather forecasts or anything. And then just literally like you wake up in the morning and you're just getting like literally a flood is just taking you out of your house, out of like your bedroom window. And then it's literally like freezing cold, and you're just like trying to hold on to a tree, but you'd
think it was like the end of the world. You think like Armageddon was happening or something. Like it's literally like taking you out, and you have to climb up a tree.
You know, when you're like a little kid and your parents are like, if you're not a good kid, you're not going to get anything from Father Christmas. They must have been like, man, I must have been well bad this year. Do you know? I must have been well bad to be getting like such an unfortunate series of events. But yeah, that's awful, isn't it?
Isn't there something like that going on in Thailand at the moment?
What's that?
My friend sent me a video of like there being loads of floods in Thailand, I think. I think that was like now. So now
I don't even know, man.
They're getting a big flood too.
It's the end of days.
Yeah, man.
I almost think in a weird way, like, I know obviously it's very bad, floods and like people's houses and works being destroyed and stuff. But from a simply a very, I don't know, maybe a selfish point of view, I think I'd quite enjoy to wake up and look out my window one day and it's just sort of like all water. I think I'd kind of
as long as you weren't under it.
That sounds like a hilarious thing to say. Do you know what I think that shows?
Like the novelty of it.
I think you're showing your age though a little bit, Bullwinkle, because I think if you're a homeowner, then that's super stressful. Because if you're a homeowner, what I would be thinking is, how much damage is this doing to my house, and can I even afford to like repair my house once this is like all finished? Whereas obviously because you're a sprightly 21-year-old and you've never like moved out, I think when you're young, you always just think anything like that, my parents just take care of it. Do you know, I mean, when you're a kid, you just don't think about stuff like that, do you?
I remember as well, like because living in Cannington and how close the brook was, there's been a couple of times like when I was younger where that's completely flooded and it's come up to like right up to our front door. It's never come in the house, but it completely flooded the garage. So like the garage at the bottom, like right up on the garage, and that was quite like the novelty of that then, where like everything's out the window. There's no work, there's no school, there's nothing, and it's just like everyone in the community is just like trying to drag cars out, and there's Land Rovers like pulling cars out of the flood and stuff, and you've got Jags,
sandbags everywhere.
Yeah, and like that's quite fun in a way.
Someone in a kayak just going down the road.
Yeah, literally going down the Brook Road.
I'd be trying to like build a boat or something.
You always see videos of that, don't you? Just like someone in a kayak just going down the road.
Like the novelty of that is quite fun, and almost like and I remember thinking at the time like, oh, this is like kind of, I've never spoke to these guys before, but it's like the farmers and that, and you're all chatting to the farmers, and then you're driving in their tractor and trying to pull cars out and stuff, and it's
almost like, it makes you think that the world would have been more like that like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
do you mean just like everyone in the village
to that
helping
community
each other?
thing, like a bit more
100%, rather than everyone just travelling to whatever town they work at, like somewhere in the county or beyond. Like,
maybe like saying hello to someone, but like nothing beyond that really.
Yeah. Hello. As you're walking into Spa. Hello.
All right, mate.
Evening. Yeah, by the way, everyone, if Bullwinkle looks extra sad and ill to you this evening, he has the savage flu, don't you, Bullwinkle?
That's right.
You've got the Christmas curse.
The lurg.
He literally is like, he is our Tiny Tim, Bullwinkle. He is our Tiny Tim. You've had savage flu, haven't you? Funnily enough, Bullwinkle was telling me last week that he was planning to go out partying at the weekend, just gone. And you were saying to me, weren't you? You were like, oh, I really hope I don't get ill, man, because whenever I get hungover, my immune system just gets destroyed, and I always get ill. And then when you first told me you were ill at the beginning of the week, I assumed it's because you'd been out partying, and then you were like, nah, man, I didn't even make it out. I just freaking woke up on Saturday feeling ill. Yeah, man, you've been like through the ringer a little bit. You're like, it's like you're still ill now, aren't you?
It's that throat, man.
Yeah, man. It's been real savage. It's been like I don't know when the last time I had the flu was. But it does, because I remember when COVID was like still a massive thing, and a big sort of argument to do with COVID was the fact of like how bad the flu is, but everyone just kind of is like, well, the flu's here, the flu's there, it's, you know, it's not the end of the world. Exactly, we'd have to lock ourselves in the house for like the whole year just to avoid the flu.
You just sort of crack on, don't you? Yeah.
Man, I see exactly what they're on about, because this flu has been more savage than like any time I've had COVID in the past.
Yeah,
it's pretty brutal.
Gets deep in your bones.
I remember I had savage flu one of the years that we went to like Nicky C's like New Year's parties, and it was the night that like I stayed at your house afterwards. I remember me and Em both stayed at yours, and I used to love staying in that spare room you had with like the little ensuite shower and toilet. You know that one, the one that was like if you came in your front door and then you turned around the corner, it was like straight in front of you. In your flat?
In
your
my
flat.
I was thinking Cannington then, like, you know.
No, so you know what I mean, like in the corridor. So you'd come around the corner, and you had that spare bedroom.
Oh yeah, that was like and it had an ensuite in it. Yeah.
I always thought the mattress was well comfy, but I remember just waking up in that bed and just being like feeling so savagely ill. I had flu, and then the night before, obviously, it just really didn't help because it was almost like mixed with a hangover.
Yeah,
because we were obviously. Like,
that's a bad double whammy. That is.
But that's just pure soldiering on though. I remember I felt ill like the day before as well, but I was just like, nah, I'm not just going to stay in like on New Year's.
I will not succumb.
I want beer and fireworks. Do you know what I mean? But like the next day, when I was at Climax.
Oh man, I remember like drinking beer like when you've got a real bad flu as well, and you can't taste the beer. Oh, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like you when you've like lost. Snot it just tastes like snotty and like, you know.
I remember I felt so rough. I hardly ever take painkillers, but I remember I just woke up in the morning and I was just like, Drew, have you got any painkillers? And he just gave me 2 paracetamol, 2 ibuprofen, and I never take ibuprofen, and I hardly ever take paracetamol, so that's how bad I felt. I just remember just feeling so rough. But damn. Silver lining for you, Bullwinkle. So for people that watched last week's episode, we had Tracy Cummins and Darcy Ripley in to talk about Darcy's grandmother / Tracy's mother's demonic possession and all of their like crazy tales and stuff like that. Great. Well, I've got a bit of information for you, Bullwinkle.
Ooh.
I had my hair cut by Darcy yesterday, and she told me that apparently Darcy's mum, Tracy, has the hots for you, man.
Wow.
So silver lining.
Reciprocated.
Oh, baby, don't say that on air. She's gonna come. She's gonna come for you. She's gonna come for you. You look out your window and she'll be there. Tracy. She'll be there like, hello, young man. I was like to Darcy, I was like, he's a bit young for her, and she was like, oh, she loves like the boy band types. I was like, looks like
fresh out of NSYNC.
The boy band types.
You literally are like a young JT / Justin Timberlake. You know,
man, I got to fulfill that when we were singing "Babe" the other day.
Yeah, man. So you know, I did say to Darcy, I was like, well, he's single. He's on the market, so she wants a little bit
looking for a new dad.
Want a bit. Looking for a new stepdad, Darcy. Well, imagine if you became Darcy's stepdad. You and Tracy would be a hilarious couple. Imagine her like ragging on you because like you believed in things that she didn't. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed last week's episode, by the way. We thought it was really interesting to have Darcy and Tracy in the studio. And Tracy's super, as you guys probably gathered, she loves her conspiracy theories. And she is balls deep on the conspiracy theories. She really wants to come back again in the new year with her friend. I can't remember her name. Apparently her friend's even more into conspiracy theories. So I said that they can come back on the show. It's going to be a wild one, I imagine. Trying to contain just Tracy alone is one thing. But her and her mate, which her apparently is even more into, I mean, they're going to hate me when I tell them, when we go into more on subjects about how I believe in dinosaurs and stuff like that. They're going to go off on one. But we'll try and I'll try and contain them a little bit, and we'll keep it light. But it'll be really
an interesting one.
Oh, it'll be really interesting to talk about the conspiracy theories and which ones they bring up and stuff like that.
It's after the show when she said, when I came in and she was like, David Icke, he's the biggest one out of them all.
Like, the biggest shill.
The biggest shill out of them all.
Because you said that you went to see David Icke, and he was like, oh, not Icke, he's the biggest shill of them all.
Yeah, and he's like known as like a massive conspiracy
and she was like,
theorist.
and his son Gareth.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, screw Gareth. Yeah, Gareth.
Oh.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to her more in depth about that, because obviously, you would think that a conspiracy theorist would like David Icke.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He's like known as like the biggest conspiracy theorist.
He literally
like,
thinks that the royal family and like
lizard people
are all like lizard alien people, which in itself is fascinating, isn't it? What a mental
the
thing!
Reptilian bloodlines,
Draconians. That's what he thinks. Yeah, Draconians. What a mental thing to like fully believe that like the royal family, and isn't it like the Bushes? And like
all
the most powerful family, basically.
Yeah, and like royalty, like the families of royalty throughout history have all been like linked, because they do anyway, like from different countries and stuff. But like
European,
he's saying if you track it back, like they're all related, no matter what country and everything.
I don't know how that proves that they're lizard aliens.
No, but then he's saying it's tracing back to the bloodlines, and it's like this bloodline of these draconian, like whoever they worship those, they were like the
Anunnaki.
Yeah, like they controlled like all of society and everything.
I assume that the Anunnaki are supposed to be different than Draconians.
Yeah, the Anunnaki are supposed to be the ones that
Sumerians,
like pre-Sumerian. Yeah, so like who like they apparently came down and then controlled everyone so that we could mine gold for them.
Oh
yeah, have you heard about that?
And like tidbits, not. Yeah, I haven't researched it.
And that was like apparently it was something to do with the atmosphere of their planet. They needed like gold particles to be able to like stop the destruction of their planet. So they controlled us, and then like we were supposed to be like the workaround.
Why did they say why they wanted the gold?
Yeah, because of like something to do with like the atmosphere of their home planet. They had to put particulates of gold into the atmosphere to help to basically stop the destruction of their own planet, their home planet. Which is
there
like
any scientific basis for that?
I don't know. I think it's just what it says in the Sumerian tablets, like the oldest kind of like records that we have of like written stuff is like the Sumerian tablets in it, and it goes through like the whole Enlil and Enki and stuff, like the whole story of these Anunnaki and how they came down and hybridized human beings and that to like. Yeah, it's crazy.
I wonder if, like, in terms of like on a universal scale, how rare gold is, because obviously it's considered very precious here.
Yeah,
obviously apparently like there are things that are quite abundant on the Earth, say, that are actually quite rare in the universe, and vice versa. Yeah, and isn't there like a moon of Jupiter or Saturn or something like that, and the whole entire moon is just a diamond.
Whoa!
So it's like theoretically, if you could get an astronaut to go there, if you had like a powerful enough ship, at the moment we don't have anything close enough powerful to it, but if you could like technically go there, you would literally have a moon of just diamond to just mine. And that's like insane, isn't it?
I heard that as well. They were talking about like harvesting precious metals from like comets going by and stuff like that. And like how if we could actually do that, like how much wealth that would bring into like the.
Did you hear about that?
Would it also not crash it? Surely.
Yeah. You'd think if it was readily available, like it would drive the price like down. But
did you guys ever hear about that frickin' sword? I think it was found in China. That it was like the smithing style of it was like a Chinese sword, I think. But it was like archaeologists were like really confused because obviously usually they'll carbon date things, and then from the time and from both the period and also from the type of metal they'll be able to
It was
carbon
metal
date
from outer
it.
space, wasn't it?
Yes,
I did see that.
So like obviously like the Greeks, the ancient Greeks would have used like in the Bronze Age, but then obviously then we had like the Iron Age, and then blah blah blah, and then before
It's like mithril.
Yeah, they found this metal sword and they carbon dated it. They didn't understand what like sort of composite the metal was and all the rest of it. And the more research they did into it, they eventually found out, I can't remember how, that the sword was made from an alloy that they think landed from a meteor from outer space. And I was like, mate, that is so cool. That's like something. That's like something from a freaking story, like a book. Tolkien in I think, is it The Children of Hurin? So obviously Tolkien's most famous works like the Lord of the Rings series and The Hobbit, as a lot of people will know, there's different Tolkien books as well that are all in the same universe. So probably the most famous one after Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is the Silmarillion, isn't there? But there's several others. There's like the Children of Hurin.
Ooh.
There's like the Children of Hurin and a couple of other ones. But yeah, I think it's in the Children of Hurin. I can't remember what character it is now, but yeah, he has like a black sword that was found in a meteorite.
Nice.
I'm gonna quickly try and see if I can find actually.
Do you know if we ever made like diamond swords, like in Minecraft?
I think it would be too hard, wouldn't it? Surely to like make us, because it's so hard to.
Because it's the hardest metal, isn't it? Or the hardest.
Imagine how expensive it'd be. People would just be like constantly trying to kill you to steal it.
Is diamond harder than metal? Is it?
It's the hardest thing that we like have access to.
Because you can definitely carve diamonds, can't you? Or
yeah,
like, you know,
but you need something like mental to do it, though, don't you? Like, I can't remember like
laser carving.
Or I don't even know if like granite can do it. I know that like for certain DIY jobs, like building jobs that are like
your
super
diamond files
hard.
And stuff you can have as well.
Yes,
like, yeah,
you can use
Is
like
it not
diamond
literally
stuff.
like a diamond cutter that you have to use for like diamonds? I don't know what that would even entail, but
cut it with another diamond.
I've heard of before.
I know nothing about this.
Search ChatBT or type your URL. That's like the default thing on Google now seems to be ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, that's because it's signed into my thing.
That's cool. Don't worry.
If you go google.com, like on there, you can still get to Google. But yeah, I need to change that back over because it's quite annoying. I thought it'd be cool, like because you could get this little plug-in that makes your search like.
Oh, that's cool.
Just
nice.
thing.
I just wanted to find out a bit more information on this meteorite sword a minute because it is such an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember as well, like when I was in Peru, like this guy was showing me these little figurines that were carved out of like meteorite as well, and I thought they were like super cool. There's like a thing to just have, just like that's from another planet.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like where did it even start? Sorry, I don't even know if this is it. I think this might be a different one, but I don't know. It says Tentetsuto. The sublime Japanese sword honed from meteorites. One of the strangest and most beautiful katanas ever fashioned is without a doubt the Sword of the Sky, or Tentatsuto, made from a 4 billion year old meteorite found near Gibeon, Namibia in 1838, and which is a fusion of iron and which fell into the able hands of prestigious swordsmith Yoshindo Yoshihara. I don't know. I was thinking of a different one, I swear. I think I can remember seeing a picture of it and it looked like really interesting. Like it looked like quite a unique sword in itself. Do you know what I mean? Roni Katana. Oh yeah, I don't know. Look it up, people. Look it up. Really interesting. Meteorite swords. I'm pretty sure the one that I was on about was from China.
It is crazy. We're going to harness all that stuff, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like at some point, and there'll be different composite materials that are just like way better than we even understand here at the moment, just because they come from somewhere else. Like you're saying, like stuff that we have that's super precious. Like I wonder how much gold there is in other places in the universe.
But interesting thing. We'll look it up for like another episode, and we'll find out what like the rarest and.
But you can't actually like use gold for much stuff, can you?
No, it's a rubbish weapon, for example, because it just bends really easily.
Like silver, they do use silver a lot in like say even like missiles and stuff. I know that the making of missiles takes silver to do.
Yeah, so it's got certain qualities that make it very useful in certain ways. But I know that yet again in like terms of weaponry, I know it's pretty useless because yet again it bends too easily. Like if you had like an iron sword or a steel sword, and then there was like a silver sword, and you hit them together, the silver sword would probably bend or snap, just break. Whereas, like, obviously you want, because it's like with weapons and stuff, you want something that's like really, really hard but quite flexible at the same time, don't you? like steel is like perfect for that. Do we get back to some more crazy Christmas facts?
Oh, yeah.
This one, I couldn't help but almost like chuckle at this, just because almost of how like just comically dark it is. Like it's almost like we think, oh, well, why would you come up with the idea to found such a mental like group on Christmas Day? But did you know that in 1865 on Christmas Day, the Ku Klux Klan was founded?
Oh my god,
that's mental, isn't it?
What are we gonna do for Christmas?
Yeah. And let's start a super racist group of people that wear like mental hoods. And I didn't know this as well. Did you know that they wear those like mental white masks and that? The white sheet and hood is supposed to represent the ghosts of Confederate soldiers risen from the dead to seek revenge.
Damn.
So that's basically like having like Halloween all year round, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's mental, isn't it?
But just starting it on Christmas.
Yeah, it's like literally the United States' most infamous hate group to this day.
Yeah, I've never thought about like where the actual the sheets come from. I just thought white and just like, are they just trying to make that statement? You know? But it's actually to represent the dead Confederate.
I do beg your pardon. It wasn't founded on Christmas Day. It was founded on Christmas Eve.
Same, but different.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think you'd just be wanting to sit down and have like a mince pie. Yeah, and you at that point,
get
not
ready
like
for Santa's arrival.
Not like start some mental racist group. Yeah. I do. Well, the only thing I like about the Ku Klux Klan is the names of the people in it. Do you know what I mean? Like they always have those mental names, don't they? Like Grand Wizard.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the highest rank is like Grand Wizard, but there's like loads of there's like I think there's like Grand Dragon as well.
Oh, right.
It's pretty epic, man.
The Masons have pretty like cool names from what I can not remember.
Apparently, that's one of the things that Tracy wants to talk about when she comes back on the show. Yeah, our new friend Tracy. She's like a little whirlwind of a lady, isn't she, man? She's an interesting lady. I said to her after we did the show with her last week, I could almost like see her having her own little program. It'd just be like really funny, like Tracy's Conspiracies.
With a full-on Somerset accent as well.
Her just going off on one about all these different...
Aspen Waite's very own Alec Jones. What's his name? Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Jones. Yeah.
Darcy was telling me yesterday, apparently she's like,
InfoWars.
Yeah, she's like, got it. Like, if she sees someone drinking a can of Coke, she will just like go off on them and
really
about how that's gonna like that's poisoning them. Apparently, she's like real into her chemtrails and obviously doesn't think that dinosaurs existed.
She doesn't think dinosaurs existed.
No, she thinks it's all a hoax and all the rest of it.
What the heck?
Yeah, because I had to say to her last week, man. Obviously, like always try to be
I've heard
really...
like Christian people, like some real like Bible people like saying that before, but never like a normal person.
Yeah, I had to say to her politely last week because she started saying it, and obviously I'm like, I'm a dino man.
You love your dinos.
I love my dino man things. It's one of the things I'm known for. But I was like, yeah, Tracy, I just so you know, I do believe in dinosaurs. And she was like, oh, do you?
Have you ever been to the Natural History Museum and seen the T-Rex?
Like I was right idiot. Yeah. Have you seen the T-Rex? What about the animatronic one?
No. They actually had. Oh, was it not a T-Rex? At some point, they had T-Rex.
They've got a T-Rex in the Oxford Natural History Museum.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Because I went to it last year, or was it no, this year? I went to it this year. Yeah, I went to it.
I've definitely seen, or in the one in London. Do they have another dinosaur?
They used to have a massive Diplodocus as you walked in the front door.
Yeah,
now
I saw that.
They swapped it with some country for a blue whale. Now they've got a blue whale, but they used to have a Diplodocus called Dippy. But they've obviously got loads of other dinosaurs and like megafauna. Yeah, they've got a massive mastodon skeleton.
It's hard for me to like look at that and think dinosaurs didn't exist.
Well, yeah, me too. I remember I tried to watch this video on it once to try and understand why conspiracy theorists and some hardcore Christians, I should say, don't believe in dinosaurs. But it was so weird. It was like they were making out like, well, it's all just in rock, and if you want to use your imagination as you're like chipping away at the rock, you can just make it into the shape of a bone, and then that's what ends up being in the museum. But you just like make it's all like fantastical, and it's like this, like you're just making it, and because it's like they were making it as all like profitable, and do you know what I mean? For people, it's profitable. But I think like that's such a crazy. I just think when you think about things like that, I just think the more you look into it, the more outlandish it is. Like for that to be true, there would have to be a cover up by every single paleontologist on the planet. And let's face it, right? Say you were like a young person, like a young boy or girl, right, that got really into dinosaurs, and you thought, right, when I go to college and that, I'm going to make the decision when I leave school to train to become a paleontologist. Say at that point you still actually let's imagine that dinosaurs weren't real. At that point you still believe in them, right? You'd obviously have to get to some point, and then you'd find out that they weren't.
and
then it's almost
and then
as
you're
if,
in on it.
and then you'd almost be like, right, oh, now I'm in it. Yeah, like, yeah, this is great. I'm just going to pretend now, actually, as well, with everybody else, that it's like doesn't exist. Like, because you'd get to a point and you would just know, wouldn't you? You go to these archaeological digs and that, and you'd be like, what, this isn't actually fossils that we're excavating and that. But then the idea that you just be like, oh, I'm going to get in on it now, I'm just going to become this like double agent.
Every single person, and not one of them has not gone to the side of it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? And I think it's like, I think that if I was going to put like a percentage on it or something, I reckon about 10% of conspiracy theories turn out to be true. Which, in my opinion, considering how many conspiracy theories there are, is still quite a high number. But I think to imagine that, like, more than that, it starts becoming a bit... I think you just have to take everything on, like, logic, don't you, and evidence. Like, if there's enough evidence or logic for something to, like, sway me, then obviously I'll start becoming more convinced. But if it's just, like...
Sometimes that's even more crazy for me, like when you do look at the evidence and it's not even a conspiracy theory, it's just literally just like finding some information about say like following the money back and seeing like some like BlackRock or JP Morgan or something or have funded this and like that's got terrorist organization like links and everything and it's almost like are they like funding it from like, do you know what I mean, like for America, like funding like different groups to like fight against each other, like stuff like that. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but then like when you like follow the money, like it's almost in plain sight, but no one really questions it, and that blows my mind. And it's not anything to do with like outlandish and crazy like aliens. It's just like, whoa, like that stuff is actually happening and on like a global scale, and that's crazy to me.
Oh yeah, man, 100%. And there's still like some of the most famous conspiracy theories out there are still to this day like sort of like unproven one way or another, aren't they? But it's like they're definitely like intriguing, and I think it's really hard to disprove them or prove them.
JFK one.
Yeah, JFK would be one of them. For sure.
Have you guys seen the like drone stuff that's going on in America?
I've heard about it, and I've seen some posts on X and
America,
stuff. But like, I want to understand more about that, because like
drones flying over America or something. Isn't it?
And I know some people think it's like something to do with like China and like Chinese drones, and but what I know, I saw Trump like put a post out and was like, the American government like know something about it. They're just not saying about it because otherwise they'd just be like shooting them out the sky. They even know what it is. Like anything like that, it's like airspace, isn't it? If something's
invaded your airspace,
then they'll get shot down.
Every now and again, you'll hear a story, won't you, about like some foreign plane gets too close to your airspace, and then they'll say like, oh, they sent out
so why is that any different? Like, 2
RAF Tornadoes to escort them out of our airspace.
If they don't know what it is, then they should have shot them down by now. So they must know something about them, like the American government.
Yeah, it's very weird though. And I haven't really looked into it too much. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, definitely an intriguing one.
We'll have to do some research. I know my friend was getting like real deep into it and was sending me a bunch of videos, but I've not had a chance to actually sort of catch up with it and see what's going on yet. But it looks pretty cool, pretty interesting.
I've seen some funny memes about it, like like at the beginning of Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, when like Han's like hiding in the snow and there's like the probe droid and it's like those black probe droids like at the like. And it was almost like making out of that. It's like, what's going on in America,
I think one of the craziest conspiracy theories, and like I watched a whole documentary on it, and it was hilarious. But it definitely had me like hooked the documentary. But just for how stupid it was, is like the flat Earth stuff.
Oh yeah, so dumb, innit? I definitely think that's so stupid. And them saying like literally like even like on land, like sometimes you can see the curvature of the Earth and stuff, and you can definitely do it every time you're in an airplane and stuff like that. It's just like mental. And it's like, it's really strange.
I almost wish, in a way, I was like one of those people that did believe in stuff like that. I think almost that ignorance can be so bliss. I imagine life must seem so much...
Well, they do say ignorance is bliss, don't they?
Exactly. I think life must just seem so much bigger and like more crazy if you sort of believed all these things.
Yeah, they say that like, obviously all the pictures that have been taken by astronauts and that are like just made up. They're just like CGI. They're like, again, it's all a conspiracy theory and that. Did you hear that? What was it? I can't remember if it was. I think it was Buzz Aldrin. It might have been Neil Armstrong, but I think it was Buzz Aldrin. Was like got so fed up of like just random people coming up to him in the street and that, and like accusing him of faking it. But there's this really hilarious video you can just watch on YouTube, and he just punches this guy. He's just like this old man. He's just like trying to go about his business, and this guy's like starts like almost like dissing him up, saying that he's like a liar for making out he went to space. He just turns around and just fucking just decks him. I just remember thinking that was real hilarious. But you can't blame him. It must be well annoying if you just know you did something and just someone's just like, no, you didn't. And it's just like some crackhead off the street or something. It would be well annoying, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because they say it was staged, didn't they? Or like some people think it was staged. Yeah, I don't know. I've not looked. I do think it's weird that no one has been back since, or have they? Has there been other?
Yeah, I think there were several, but there hasn't been like a successful one for decades, have they?
Yeah,
but I think the explanation behind that, if you want to call it an explanation, is that it's like competition, isn't it? Like competition, like fuels excellence. So at the time, there was the Cold War was going on, and there was that massive race, wasn't there, between the Soviet Union and the United States to see who were going to be the first people to go to the moon. And as a result, because the United States wanted to win, they were pumping like billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars into NASA.
They're almost like, we've done that now.
Yeah, it's almost like they achieved their goal, and then they just like cut the funding loads, and then it was almost like NASA were hoping that the funding was going to keep up, and that it would just almost like by the point we're at now, like 60 years later, we'd be like have like colonies on the moon and all the rest of it. But like I think the NASA just cut the funding, so. The government cut the funding to NASA, so they just don't get like anywhere near as much as they used to back in the day. So in that regard, I'm like, okay, well that does make sense. Like you need money to do these things.
So you get private companies being built like SpaceX and that, and like you're going to get to Mars, you know.
Oh yeah, I think that's the future, isn't it?
I think like what we were saying about paleontologists and dinosaurs is exactly what I sort of think of the moon landing one, where it's like I feel like if they didn't go there, then Russia would have called them out on it not being real.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Like, why if Russia suspected them of it, then surely they'd be like, to this day, all you'd hear of like any time that the Russians would even talk about it would be like, false, comrades, it's made up. You know, like just they'd be really like, but they just have never ever said anything like that, have they? As far as I'm aware.
Have you seen Jeff Bezos has now got like a new space thing?
No.
Where he's like sending people to like space. Almost as like I think it's the same thing that the guy who's the guy who like, owns Virgin,
Richard Branson.
He had like a company, didn't he, where he was like sending people to
like the border of space almost, the atmosphere.
And I think Jeff Bezos is now like doing a similar thing, but that's quite cool. I like to think that there might become a point where that becomes like quite a common
dodgy,
thing
though,
to go and like do.
It's a bit dodge. I don't even know if I'd want to. It's just a bit dodge.
I wonder how dodgy it is though, because like how much more dodge could it be than like a plane flight? You know.
I guess like the higher you get in the atmosphere, in my mind, it is more dodgy because once you reach what's it called? Is it just going to the atmosphere? You know when basically like even when you're in a plane, say you're like 10,000 feet above the ground, above sea level, like the atmosphere is the same as when you're on the ground. Obviously, yeah, it would be freezing cold outside and stuff like that. But like theoretically, you wouldn't just like die in this vacuum if you just went out there straight away. You'd probably die because you'd eventually hit the floor. Do you know what I mean? That's why you would die. But it's not like you'd like suffocate. I just think it's almost like because they say, don't they? One of the most dangerous things is like getting through the what's it called?
The ozone layer.
Yeah, it's like the
radiation belt.
Yeah, it's like getting through that. It's like mentally hard. It's like, you have to have like a really strong, well-designed ship.
Do you remember that guy that did the biggest free
jump.
drop? and he went into that death spin.
Yeah. It's quite a funny video, isn't it? I know it sounds large, but just like when you initially see him just jump out, it looks quite comical almost.
Because he's like out of the atmosphere then, isn't he? Or he's like I remember that was crazy. And then
it is ridiculous.
And they were saying like how bad it is if you go into this like death spiral, and he actually went into it and he's just started like going. I was like, whoa, that must be like hard on your old noggin. Like,
did he live?
I think so.
Really? Yeah, I think so.
He did. Yeah,
I think he got caught by a net.
Did he?
Yeah, that's how they landed. I'm pretty sure.
I can only remember him jumping out, and I remember the death spin, and that's all I remember of it.
Imagine being the guy. It's your responsibility to put the net in the right place.
Yeah,
that's a lot of pressure.
Because I think that was
like calculate that from such a height.
I think that was what the world record was that it was like no parachute or anything like that. Like he fell the furthest without a parachute, so he literally just free fall the whole time, and then just hit like a bunch of nets at the bottom.
I wonder actually how high it was. How many like thousands of feet?
Should I have a little search?
Yeah, have a little search, Bullwinkle. Have a little search. While you're doing that, we'll get on to our next Christmas disaster. Have any of you guys heard of the Iroquois? I think it's pronounced like that, Iroquois or Iroquois theatre fire of 1903. This is a pretty savage one, man. So it was a newly erected theatre that was destroyed after an overheated arc lamp on stage set fire to a curtain that blew out over the audience. Bit of trivia at the end of this one as well. If you've ever wondered where those like green fire exit signs that are like, everybody knows them nowadays. There's always, anywhere you go that's a big building, it's got like green fire exit signs, haven't they? So obviously it's always been like a common thing for people to go to the theatre during Christmas. This was also true 100 years ago. But 100 years ago, nearly 2,000 people, mostly women and children, out for Christmas break, packed into the newly built Iroquois Theatre in Chicago for a performance of the musical Mr. Bluebeard. Although the production starred comedian Eddie Foy, the December 30th show turned out to be anything but funny. Everything was going smoothly until the second act, when a light bulb malfunctioned and set a drape ablaze. The flames quickly spread to the scenery hanging from the ceiling, and panicked cast members fled for safety as flaming bits of fabric rained down onto the stage. Terrified theatregoers serenaded with a dreamy waltz just moments earlier, stampeded for the exits as the stage collapsed and the lights went dark. Now, you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? Everyone just run outside. But tragically, in those days, the doors were always locked and usually hidden behind a curtain as well to stop people from sneaking in the theatre for free. The panicked people were literally locked inside a burning theatre. Those who couldn't escape, which was the majority of them, quickly fell victim to the smoke and flames and died. By the time the fire department arrived, they found 575 people dead. Some 30 more would die from their injuries in the coming days. The only bright side to this grim Christmas time tragedy was that this is what sparked the implementation of all the safety features we know of today in both America and Europe, where there's always the fire exit signs with the green signs, and then there's usually like a little man in there like, why mind like running, so everybody knows that in the event of a fire, just go there. And it's always like a two-way door where it's locked on the outside, but you can just push open those that was the invention of that, basically, so that if anything like that ever happened again, it wouldn't just cause everyone to die.
Yeah, that's savage, man.
So yeah, shout out to those, shout out to all the people that died in the Chicago theatre fire tragedy of 1903. Bullwinkle, have you found out how far up that guy jumped?
So I believe his name is Luke Akins, if this is the guy I'm looking at correctly.
Right.
It says he fell from 25,000 feet.
Whoa.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? And also, guess how long that took him to fall?
1.5 minutes?
Longer, 10 minutes.
Drew was closer. It was about 2 minutes.
That's so fast.
I remember
That's
at
crazy,
the time
isn't
thinking, this is fast.
Yeah,
you know,
because obviously he
must
reached
have
like
been
a terminal velocity.
Yeah.
So he reached the terminal velocity of going 120 miles an hour. How crazy is that?
That's got to feel horrible in just a little spacesuit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's got to be horrible, man.
It looks like as well, there was this woman, right, called Vesna Vulovic, who it's claiming here she actually holds the world record because she survived the highest fall without a parachute, falling from 33,000 feet. And apparently the reason she fell in the first place...
Isn't that higher than the guy?
Yeah, but
this guy he went. I was
going to say he was.
That's what I thought. So I don't reckon this can be true.
I think that he had more of like a Russian or Eastern European name. The guy that did the one that you're
because it was sponsored by Red Bull, and
I remember
the
watching Akins guy, I believe.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
That's
I thought that was in the Guinness Book of Records though for the highest ever jump. That's what I thought. So if a woman could just fall out of a plane and that be 30, then that doesn't make any sense, does it?
I know what you mean. I am very confused on that because I'm looking at the thumbnail for the guy who fell out, and he's in space. You know, there's no way that like normal.
Whereas obviously the plane from that lady was on obviously wasn't in space.
Yeah,
planes
it's much higher than 20,000 feet. Was it 200,000 feet?
It said 25, I think.
That's got to be in there, because I was going to say that's not right, because even when you're just on like a commercial plane, you're like 10,000 feet, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's the average height, or wherever we're playing? Average,
Wikipedia, I reckon, is lying to me here.
Yeah, I think it is, man. Average cruising.
I mean, he is definitely the guy, that Luke Akins guy is the guy who did that like jump from space.
Yeah. for
Mental.
a commercial plane. So look. Not ChatGPT. Oh yeah, so the average cruising altitude for a commercial airplane is between 30 and 40,000 feet. So that's super high, yeah. Which is 9 to 12,000 meters above sea level. Yeah.
This Vesna Vulovic one, the one that I was saying about a minute ago, I've just read somewhere else it quotes it as 10,000 feet. It's still crazy, but this sounds like a crazy story. So she was on a flight in 1972 when a briefcase bomb got detonated in the baggage compartment. And she like just fell, falling out the plane or whatever.
Yeah.
And she just woke up on the floor. How mental is that? Like literally just fell from a plane. Like doesn't even really know how she survived it.
I remember hearing a mental story about a woman that survived a plane crash, and it was like in some mental jungle in Asia, or it might have even been like this tropical island in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. And she the only reason she survived is because her chair got like ripped out of the plane, but she was still attached to the chair.
Oh, I think this is. I think we're looking at the same one. Yeah.
When she landed, it landed on the chair, and then the padding of the chair stopped her from dying. She was the only one that survived, but then she survived something like 2 weeks in the jungle on her own. Yeah. And there was like, when she was eventually saved and took, she had like all these mental diseases because of all the parasites.
Oh
and
god.
She had to like survive and like kill lizards and eat them and stuff in the jungle. But she was like this like young blonde chick, I think.
This is the woman, Vesna Vulovic.
Right.
Yeah, it says she
wasn't she like on the plane with her mum or
landed
something?
in a heavily wooded area near the Czechoslovak village of Suska Kamens.
Right, so not tropical or Asian then.
But a forest nonetheless.
Nonetheless.
But it sounds pretty crazy.
I think it said like she went on the plane journey with her mum or something. Does it say anything about that? Or? I could have sworn
I'm not sure. It says here that her injury she got just from the flight. She had a broken skull that led to hemorrhaging, 3 broken vertebrae, one that was completely crushed, broken pelvis, broken legs, paralysed from the waist down. But she eventually regained motion and the ability to walk.
Mad that she just like survived with a broken skull and that just in the woods for like a week or whatever before she was rescued, isn't it?
Crazy.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
Damn.
That's nuts. Right, let's move on to some more crazy dark Christmas facts. So, the Black Christmas of 1941. For you World War II history buffs out there, you'll know obviously that 1941 was during the Second World War. So this was a nasty experience for the Allied forces. So this is about a small garrison of British, Canadian, Chinese and Indian soldiers that were tasked with defending the British colony of Hong Kong during World War II. But the Japanese attacked. Dun, dun, dun. There's obviously the Japanese were on the Axis forces during World War II. They were allies, obviously, with Hitler and the Nazis. And the Japanese attacked. And in those days, the Japanese were not very nice people to be fighting. They didn't apply by the same rules as like European armies would play by. So in Europe and stuff, if you surrendered, then the people would usually respect the surrender. It's like I can't remember. It was like a rule of war almost. It was I think it was like criminal not to like take someone as prisoner if they surrendered. You couldn't kill them if they surrendered. Whereas the Japs would just be like nah. So that the people try and
kill you anyway.
Yeah, they just try and surrender and they just kill you anyway. So the Japs invaded. They outmanned and outgunned the Allied forces, and they, attacked on the 8th of December. There was a week of fierce combat. The Japanese had muscled their way to the doorstep of the central city of Hong Kong Island. The Axis power demanded that the British surrender the colony, but the British refused. The Japanese then pushed on, slaughtering Allied soldiers, even as they attempted to surrender. By Christmas Day, things were looking grim for the British. Japanese air raids had cut the city's water mains and destroyed its power plant. The British governor, Sir Mark Young, then made the tough decision to surrender to the Japanese at 3:30 in the afternoon on Christmas Day, as the British people and the Canadians, etc., were all being slaughtered. By the time the white flags went up, 4,000 soldiers from both sides had perished in the 2.5-week-long battle. Despite the surrender, violence continued. The Japanese soldiers then soldiers then tortured, abused, and starved the enemy prisoners and wreaked havoc on the colony's Chinese population by plundering and destroying villages and murdering civilians and raping as many as 10,000 women. And then the events has gone down in history to be known as Black Christmas.
Crikey mighty, they were a dirty old lot, weren't they?
It's mad how much Japan had such a massive culture shift after the Second World War. Because
after that big bomb, baby.
Yeah, it's mad what an atom bomb can do to you, or an atom bomb or two. But because obviously in the Second World War, they were like arguably the worst people to be fighting. Because even with the Nazis, I think that's like, well, unless you were probably like a Jew or maybe a Polish person, they probably would have still accepted your surrender. I mean, if you were like just like a British soldier or an American soldier, definitely obviously wouldn't want to be taken prisoner by the Nazis. But do you know what I mean? Like, you'd still maybe think there'd be a little bit of that, just a little bit of humanitarianism, or at least for a lot of people. But with the Japanese, it's crazy that they just had such a brutal samurai warrior-like mentality that they were just like, nah, we're just going to kill everybody. Just kill everybody, rape all the women, destroy all the villages. Like, that's brutal, isn't it? Like,
do you know that film Deer Hunter? Have you
know.
heard of that? And it's like a war film, and it's almost about like this group of friends that go deer hunting together and that. But it's after like Vietnam. I swear it's Vietnam. I'm just thinking whether it's the right one but if it is, then it's slightly different to the Japanese, but almost on the same level.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, they would, in this film, I remember, like, they would have all of the prisoners of war, like, in these, like, bamboo cages.
Oh, that sounds very much
inside
like Vietnamese,
inside the rivers. So they would just hold them all in the river, and they'd just be in there, like, for just every day. Like, so imagine all your skin going all proper weird and that.
Mush.
And they would just getting eaten by rats from like the feet up. And that was like a way of torturing them, like, and it was like depicted it in the movie, and it was basically like the shell shock of coming out of war and that. And they'd make them play that game with Russian roulette where they did it with a gun, and they'd have to do that, and they'd like
the psychological torture, let alone the actual physical torture, is just intense, isn't it? I can't remember if it was during the Vietnamese War as well. It was an Asian type of torture, and it's very similar. Where they would like tie you down, but they plant like a little bamboo tree under you, and then they tie you down over it, and then the bamboo tree would like grow through your back, and then sprout out through your chest. But because obviously it would only grow at like a tiny rate every single day, even though it's a very fast growing plant. Like, you would just like die super slowly as you just felt the plant like just bursting into your back, and then slowly making its way through your body, and then eventually it would just burst out of your chest and everything, and just like grow, and you'd be like, ah! It's
crazy. We use our creativity for the most amazing things, but then for the most like disgustingly torturous things as well.
Oh yeah, man. If you look up like ways that people have like different ways that people have come up with to torture people since the dawn of time, it is mental.
That museum that's in Prague, the torture museum, I remember just walking around that and just being humbled by like just like the sheer different amount of like things that they had in there to real life choking.
I find it crazy that like so many people seem to have the capacity to actually witness that and not put a stop to it.
Yeah, or like have the ability to actually like carry that out on somebody else as well.
Yeah, conduct it to someone. Yeah, it's insane.
Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not so surprised that people turn in a blind eye, because I think a lot of people do just turn a blind eye to things if they're like, if it doesn't concern them.
But to like enjoy it and like and actually like want to do that, like
I guess all the people that are nowadays considered like serial killers, back then they would just get a job doing that. Before you had serial killers, you had like torturers. You had like people that were just paid to torture people.
There is that weird part of like that animalistic, like primal side of like the enjoyment of killing and that and stuff. Like when you think of like some animals that like you see like cats like playing with a little mouse or something, and it's like there's no. Do you know what I mean? Like that enjoyment that comes from like the domination of being able to just completely overpower life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they say that is like crack.
I think it is human nature. Like, there's been so many psychological experiments that have been done that sort of show that when people believe that they really don't have any consequences to their actions, they can then go on to do things that maybe you wouldn't imagine people could do. And I think that is probably both a mixture of just human nature, but then I think the reason that we're almost so away from that in our day-to-day is because society as a whole and just sort of like
has moved away from it quite a lot.
Yeah, from the second you're born, you know that to murder is bad, to kill is bad, to torture is bad. But it'd be interesting to know, like, what the world would be like if those norms weren't necessarily there.
I think drugs are bad as well. I remember watching this like YouTube thing, like, you know, when you just get into these like you know, hour-long little mini documentaries about certain things. And there was this chick, and it was about like crazy people when you can watch the interviews with them that they have with the police and stuff. I like watching those for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just, I think it's just mental to, like, how people can be. And it was this chick, and she was like, it started off like her and this guy were like having sex, and it was just this thing in the basement, and it was a bit drug infused and that, and she ended up like tying him down, but she ended up just chopping him into pieces. That is just completely and then
she wasn't planning to.
No, she didn't plan it at the start. They were just like together.
But then almost the power went to her head when she realised she could.
Drug infused, just crazy thing went that she just completely just cut him up, and there was loads of bags in there and buckets and that, and she just put different parts of his body in just different things, and she got in the car and like took his like head and a leg with her in the car back to her house, and the mum just got back with like her boyfriend, and it was down in the basement, and she just went and you heard the phone call to the police in this in this documentary and stuff, and her kid's limbs was just in the bucket at the bottom of the stairs, just cut up, and it's just like, how is someone like, oh, do you know what I mean? It's just so mental. And she had all of these. She'd just gone up to the kitchen and got. Well, that was another part of it. Just these different blades and that. And there was just like 3 or 4 different blades, and she'd used different ones to cut up different bits and that, and just done it as like a bit of a
so mental that she like didn't plan to do it. Like that was originally just like going to be like some kinky sex thing.
Yeah.
And then something in her head went, I know, I'm just going to cut this guy up.
Yeah.
Isn't that mental?
Pretty
That is so mental.
style.
Do you remember like a couple of months ago about that story about I think it was caught on CCTV on the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol. It was like a guy with a suitcase, and he was trying to chuck it over, but there was like sort of almost like fencing to stop people from jumping and stuff, so he couldn't do it. And then didn't he just like run off and leave it there? And then they just found out like the chopped up bits of a woman in there.
Yeah,
I don't know if the guy ended up getting found. I don't know if he ended up getting found.
It was something to do with like it was apparently like drug related, something to do with London and again, Bristol, drugs. And it was almost like it was almost like don't get involved in our turf kind of thing.
Right.
Apparently, that's it. Someone from Bristol one of Meg's friends who lived in Bristol. Like we were talking about it last time we saw him, and they said it was something to do with that. Like, but I thought that's pretty mental. Almost like they'd taken a they traced like the car or something. It had come from like London, like almost just been dropped off on Bristol Suspension Bridge. Like,
I guess just because it's so super far away from where they live, so I think it's like less likely for them to get traced.
It was like a message for Bristol.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was almost you know, for like the drug stuff that's happening in Bristol.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that sounds just mental.
Yeah, dude. Like, that's mental, isn't it? Like, imagine just getting caught up in that sort of thing. Like, absolutely freaking crazy, man. I remember there was that video, wasn't there, about I think it was in somewhere in America, and it was like this woman went on like a blind date with this bloke, and then she like disappeared, and then they eventually found out like the CCTV, and it was like this guy just leaves this hotel room, and he's got like a suitcase, but then what gave it away for him was the suitcase started like leaking blood, and he's walking through the hotel and then out onto the pavement, and there's like a blood trail, so it's like literally like following him. So they eventually found him because of that, and this poor woman who went on like did like a one night stand with like this bloke, but then he just he was luring her back into the hotel room to like cut her up. It's crazy, man, isn't it?
I saw this crazy one the other day as well.
Be careful who you go back with.
Yeah,
if you don't know somebody well, or like, do you know what I mean? If it's just like the first time ever meeting someone, I think give it a couple of dates, innit, until you like get alone with them.
Or even if you know someone, like this one that I was saying about, like this woman, and do you know how like some people can be so delusional that even if they've done something crazy, they just like don't understand how they're going to be in trouble. Like these delusional people, and this was one of them. It was like that, and she'd like literally put her boyfriend in a suitcase and zipped it up.
Oh, I know about this one.
Have you seen?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
And then she just left him.
And
there.
she just left him in it all night. And he's like, "Look, I can't breathe. Let me out of this suitcase right now."
I watched the video.
And then she is
the police confronting her.
Yeah, and then she's got things saved on her phone that she didn't even she forgot she had or whatever.
She was on loads of drugs.
Yeah, and
voice recording to him being like,
yeah, and she's like, "Yeah, who's laughing now?"
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And she just went up to bed, left him, and then woke up and got down. And you hear the song. She's like, "There's something wrong with my boyfriend. We were playing around last night, and I put him in a suitcase." And
I thought it was so weird as well because when the police were questioning her, she made out that they did it regularly as a game.
No,
it's like what? Like who just
and she's like, so am I going to get to go now? Am I going to, after I've talked to you about this,
no.
am I going to, no, you killed him.
Yeah, you literally killed
and
your boyfriend.
And he's dead. Yeah. And you're going to obviously just be locked up now.
Yeah. It's almost like the delusion of that, isn't it? Like them just thinking they're going
to just be let out and it's just a normal thing or whatever. Like
the idea as well that they think that the police would just be like, oh, okay, yeah, you and your boyfriend just played this game where you got just lock each other in a suitcase. Like that's not normal, is it? That's really weird. Like to make it that is just like a normal thing that you and your partner do. Like that's not normal. Like that guy was stupid for letting her do it to him in the first place.
Yeah, that's just weird. Like how that even happened. Like not even as
imagine how horrible it would have felt for him as well.
And just slowly dying of just lack of air.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? You didn't realise how airtight those suckers are.
Yeah,
who would have realised that?
You get your lips on the line and
just along the zip.
I get scared sometimes when I'm in bed and I'll put the cover over my head or something like I can't.
That's probably what it was like. But imagine that, but just chronically times 10, but then for hours and hours and hours.
With your foot lodged against your neck.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be so uncomfortable, isn't it?
I guess they have got to be so so tight because it's really cold in the places, right?
Imagine being a fully grown man and even in a massive suitcase, you'd be so tightly packed.
Oh yeah, that'd be compact, man.
Vacuum sealed.
I don't reckon I'd even get in one. That's my saving grace.
Yeah, that's the
they'll make suitcases that big.
Imagine you trying to get my old man.
You need a chest.
yeah.
Old school.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I finally went into the below me where I live in Ludlow. There's there's an antique shop just below us.
That's so cool.
But it's the guy is he's just been collecting stuff over the years and that, and it's all really cool things in there and things from all over the world and they got loads of weapons and that, which is really cool.
Nice.
Loads of old school swords and that, and just
so
from
cool.
different. And one of the things in there was this decorative chest, and it was as a part of a dowry that you'd get given with marriages and dowries with the wife to almost buy the hand of the wife a dowry would be what the other family be paid. And it was a dowry chest and it would have all this stuff in, but this massive ornate chest wood, and it's just that was pretty cool, just old school. Just reminded me when you said about a chest.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely, man. I do think antique shops in general are just cool. It's almost like a little portal, isn't it, to this other little realm. You never know what mental trinkets you're going to find inside.
And especially the guy who owns it as well. He's just well into telling you all about where it comes from and everything, the history behind it. And he even got out and showed me these ancient Japanese basically Kama Sutra things, and he unwound. He's I don't get these out often, but look at this. It was hand painted different positions and stuff. I was that's pretty cool.
Oh man, yeah, that's savage, isn't it? That's savage.
He knew his audience, man.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, weapons and
yeah, man. Yeah.
And Kama
weapons
Sutra.
and Kama Sutra.
That's it.
Sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, some more Christmas tragedies, everyone. Let's pump a couple more out. There was an Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, on December 26th, 2004. A magnitude 9.1 earthquake rocked the bottom of the Indian Ocean off the coast of Indonesia, releasing the energy equivalent of 23,000 atomic bombs.
Damn.
If the damage had been contained to the seafloor, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But the powerful quake displaced a tremendous amount of water, sending massive waves of destruction surging towards coastlines. Our tsunami waves measuring no more than a foot high swept stealthily across the open ocean. People in surrounding countries went about their daily routines, but soon strange things started to happen. Some people reported that the ocean was rapidly receding, while others said that they heard a roar like a jet engine from out to sea. As the wave pushed closer to the shore, they grew taller, reaching as high as 98 feet. Can you imagine the terror of just being like walking along the coastline and seeing a wave 100 foot tall, just like,
That's mental.
oh, screw, that's it, I'm dead. You know what I mean? Like, if you were like on the coastline at the time, you'd be like, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Don't matter how good of a swimmer I am, I'm just dead, man. It's like putting an ant in a blender before you turn it on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's just gonna die, innit? It's like, there's no way against that.
Cool. That sheer power of the wave.
Yeah.
Damn.
The 98-foot wave crashed into homes, cars, and people in the low-lying areas. Most victims were caught completely off guard because the Indian Ocean region didn't have a tsunami warning system in place. When the waters receded, they left behind 230,000 victims in 15 countries, and the damage left cost $14 billion.
Damn.
It's considered the deadliest tsunami in recorded human history.
When was this?
Wow.
2004 on Boxing.
2004.
Yeah, Boxing Day 2004.
Oh, I kind of remember in school. Do you remember like?
Rings a bell actually. Yeah, we would have been in year 9, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I remember. There was.
Oh no, sorry, we'd have been in year 10.
Yeah, one of the teachers was away in that area or something, and everyone was like,
hell?
Mrs. I think it might have been Mrs. Guppy. Do you remember Mrs. Guppy?
Yeah, she was sound.
Yeah,
she was pretty sound.
I think
drama teacher, right?
Yeah, drama. I think it was Mrs. Guppy, but I remember like there was like she was over there or something like at the time, and everyone was like, oh,
luckily she had a surfboard.
Right. Yeah. Imagine that. Not just a drama teacher,
Yeah.
kick-ass wave rider.
Yeah, man. This is one of the last Christmas disasters for today. This was the underwear bomber of 2009. Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab was his name.
That's a long name.
As a long name. He was a 23-year-old Nigerian who attempted to detonate a bomb concealed in his pants as his plane made its approach into Detroit. Of all the places, man, why put it next to your penis? Because you're going to blow your own penis
Nasty way
off.
to go.
That's just
Terrible
stupid
way to go. That's like those what are they called?
Chastity belts.
No, like what happened recently when someone hacked the
pager.
Pages, yeah,
and then it blew those terrorist balls off or whatever.
Yeah,
man, that was pretty GT. Like, that's like, oh, got you, Al Qaeda.
Got you,
whatever.
babe.
It wasn't like you. Who was it? It was Hamas, wasn't it? I think Hamas operatives, but yeah, literally their asses were ham as well. Actually, after that, which is very ironic. Imagine with this guy. Imagine if you were like outside of the blast radius and you're like, oh my god, a bomb's just gone off, and then just like a massive like penis just slapped you in the head. Just a big black sausage just hit you in the head.
with nails in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A bit of shrapnel. Yeah. Luckily, though, for the passengers aboard the Christmas Day flight from Amsterdam to Detroit back in 2009, the attack wasn't very successful. This guy didn't pack his bomb in his pants very well. The would-be attacker's name, Umar Farouk Abdul Matulab, the 23-year-old Nigerian who attempted to detonate a bomb concealed in his underwear, failed. Passengers
Didn't put batteries in it.
Yeah, he forgot to put. He put a AAA in, and it was supposed to be a AA. Passengers reported hearing a noise like a firecracker going off, which turned out to be the sound of the bomb as it failed to detonate. Abdul Muttalab was nevertheless engulfed in a fireball, and flames soon spread to the plane's carpet and walls. Fortunately, passengers were able to subdue the man, probably largely because he was on fire, and extinguish the flames, and the plane landed without further incident. Later investigations determined that Abdul Muttalab was a radicalized Yemen-based Islamic cleric. Was radicalized by Yemen-based Islamic cleric Anwar al-Awlaki and sought to carry out the attack in revenge for what he felt was the killing of innocent Muslims by the United States of America. He remained unrepentant as he faced 8 charges, including attempted use of a weapon of mass destruction and conspiracy to commit an act of terrorism. A judge ultimately sentenced him to life in prison, but best of all, the 289 passengers and crew on that harrowing flight were able to return to their families for their holidays. Imagine how much you would feel like just such a wally, just to put it mildly, that you were going to try and blow up a plane.
You just set yourself on fire.
Yeah, the bomb fails, but is successful enough to just engulf just you in flames. So you haven't even damaged anyone else. You've just set yourself on fire, essentially, and then just like given yourself like horrific burns.
That's karma, man.
That is karma, isn't it?
Yeah.
Karma, as they say, ladies and gentlemen, is a small dog woman. A small female dog. Yeah, man. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. So that's just some nice little happy Christmas tales for you there, everyone.
I watched a video recently on the worst year in human history, in all of human history.
Do you know what? I remember reading about this before. Wasn't it in like the Dark Ages or the medieval times?
536 was the year they quoted. Although
Dark
there was
Ages.
Multiple different ones, and there was always like.
Wasn't it like at the time there was like the plague was like wreaking havoc?
Black Plague.
I think that was. I think that's in like the 13. I think that's in the 13th century.
Well, there was the Black Death,
century?
but then there was the plague as well. I think there was like two really big outbreaks in Europe over the sort of since sort of like 0 AD. You know,
it got me thinking when I was watching this video though, because obviously a way that they sort of can tell what the worst years were. If it's not documented, it's just by looking at like tree rings or looking at the minerals, the mineralization of the ground and stuff. So like you can see how much radiation there was, what the temperature would have been like. But it got me thinking. There's been like so many years in human history, like in history that we know, where it would have been a completely just black year because of volcanic eruption. Like ash would have spread, and you wouldn't have even like seen the sun all year. Temperatures would have plummeted. If that happened now, do you reckon we could stop that?
What if a massive supervolcano erupted?
Yeah. Depends
where you were, like, in relation to the volcano. They say, don't they, that the supervolcano under Yellowstone is, like, overdue an eruption. And it's a supervolcano. And I think they say that, like, if it went off, it would just, like, pretty much just destroy, like, the majority of the United States.
Whoa. I thought that was the case. But it also, like, starts chain... Because the supervolcanoes, like, start chain eruptions of them.
Yeah.
And I think... Even the places that wouldn't, like, if it destroyed the whole of America, but then even, like, China, which is, like, the opposite side of the world, would be affected because the ash would spread the whole world and it would just lower the, like, temperature, like, ridiculous amounts.
I'm pretty sure that the worst extinction event of all time, the Permian extinction, was all of the supervolcanoes in the Earth going off at the same time. And I'm pretty sure it's considered the worst... extinction event of all time, like even worse than the K2 extinction. The K2 extinction is the most famous one because of how famous dinosaurs are, because that's the one that wiped out the dinosaur ones. But the Permian extinction, which was before that, before the dinosaurs even evolved, I think it's considered the worst one of all time. Like it literally just like pretty much destroyed everything. Like it was almost like a complete global reset. And I think as well, I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to scrape into the inner archives, but. I'm pretty sure since humans have been around, there was a less bad but similar extinction event very early on in hominid evolution. And I think they said that something like there was only something like 2,000 hominids left on the entire planet. And then so everybody that's walking the face of the Earth now was descended from those 2,000 that remained. And if you think about it in the grand scheme of the entire planet, 2,000 is like so close to nothing. It's like so close to zero. So it was like we were like this close to never being a species. I'm just trying to remember. I don't know what it was called, but it wiped out quite a lot of like animals and stuff. And I think this was like before. This would have been obviously quite a while before the extinction events that like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson hypothesized. Like 100,000 years before that, or maybe 200,000 years before that, or something like that. But like, humans were like hominids were alive at the time, but it just like destroyed like so much of the planet.
I wonder how many people you need to start a civilization or to save a civilization without it becoming
Oh yeah, maybe
without it becoming like a huge like incest. Like
that's a good question, isn't it? That's a really good question, and I wonder like if it. You know, because like what the ratio of that would be, say like male to female.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Would it be important to have? You'd think it would be much more important to have more women than men, wouldn't you? Because a man can knock up lots and lots and lots of women.
Yeah.
Isn't there like problems in where there's? Oh no, there are more women in some Asian countries, isn't there? It's like
China and that.
Is that the thing that will happen like naturally, maybe more, or like where there is more women, like you're saying, or like
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
I
natural.
Think, I think that might have been
numbers.
more of like a cultural thing. I know that in some Asian countries like China, they valued boys more than girls, which I think was just a bit of a sexist thing. But there used to be a rule, wasn't there? Oh no, this was slightly different. I think there used to be a rule. I was going to say there was a rule where you could only have like one child, but they've taken that away now because they're worried about societal collapse in China now. Because there's such a massive country.
It's like what Elon says about like
but like apparently China's like almost like openly concerned about it. You know, because if you think about it, it makes sense. If it takes
why were they so the other way with it at first, like where they were actually stopping people?
I think because their country was almost like growing too big,
right?
But then I think this is the thing as well, when like, you know, because I think very quickly our society is shifting from being worried about overpopulation to societal collapse. But it makes sense why, doesn't it? Because like if you think about it, it takes two people to make a child. Well, if those two people only make a child, then in one generation you're halving the population. That's a radical, that's a radical shift.
And like when Craig was down the other day, and he was talking about like the problem that we have in the UK with like the amount of like elderly people there are from like that generation, like a couple before us, where it's just like our grandparents and that, like where you know people used to just have way more babies, like families would hardly, it wouldn't just be one, that would be like the not so
it would be super uncommon.
You'd have like 2 or 3
the
or
only
4.
person I can think of that is like a single child that I know of that's like my parents' age is like JP, like my Uncle John. But I think that's super rare, and I think usually in most cases, I don't know if this was the case, but I think it would have been more likely because, say, the woman became barren after her first child, or the man became infertile. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have been because like they were choosing not to, or do you know what I mean? I think
that's it. Like my grandparents, there was like my dad and then his brother and then sister. He had like 2 siblings, you know, and that's quite normal. 3, I think, but like
Sometimes I think sometimes I almost think about it on my own, and I'm like, man, I need to have loads of kids.
I
need to like fly the flag for the human race, man. Stop pumping out the babies, you know.
Me too, man.
I saw a post recently that was saying plants are the new pets. Pets are the new children.
That's so stupid.
And children are the new exotic animals.
The moment you said that, then I got annoyed. Do you know what I mean? I hate stuff like that.
No, but
Plants
just in terms of like in terms of
like
how no one can seem to afford to have children anymore. Like it's become a point of like having a child is like point. how it was having an exotic animal back in the day, because people just can't afford to do it.
I think as long as that is genuine and sincere, because I feel like a lot of people still have time to buy loads of cigarettes and buy booze and drugs all the time. Do you know what I mean?
But just that thing of like how one like the you know the kind of I can't think of what the word is, but like just that you have your roles in your family as like the bread earner and then the stay at home. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, that was much more like possible.
And there's that saying, isn't there? Like it takes a village to raise a child. But that's almost like, well, the village needed to raise the child. It's gone nowadays.
Yeah, and I can say even from having a kid now, like I know that that like that maternal like instinct and that wanting to get back to that is like, I know Meg doesn't want to go back to work now.
No,
she's like no, she's loving being
embracing
a mum and proper embracing it, but she's like, I don't even know where this come from. I didn't even want kids.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate.
But then it's a natural thing. But I want to be able to just I want her to be able to just like stay at home, and then like but then it's like how can we afford to do that? You know,
that is like the most important job a woman can ever have.
Yeah,
and I mean that, and
it's like, a job, man. It's work. It's like a job that we go to work.
Job,
like it's not like maternity leave and then she doesn't work anymore. It's like it's just working in a different way. Like you know?
It's like, what is more rewarding? What job could you find that's more rewarding than bringing up and caring for your own offspring, your own child? Do you know what I mean? You're not going to find a job more rewarding than that. No, not in a million years. There's nothing that will fulfill you in on a deep level more than that. You know?
Yeah. So to think that you can't afford to have like more than one or something like that is like that is like really annoying. Like I like right now I can say it'd just be amazing if I could say like, well, 3 kids, you stay at home, and when you know it'll be like, you know, and I'll be able to earn enough money just to like.
Yeah, I've heard some and ladies out there that are going to listen, please don't listen to what I have to say before you get triggered with me. I've heard like some things that are almost like counter arguments to the idea of modern feminism, about how the whole idea of modern feminism is flawed. So the original idea of feminism was that women would have equal rights to men, which of course they should. Everyone should have equal rights, regardless of sex, race, colour or creed. Everyone should, right? But the idea of modern feminism, where it's essentially like, okay, so modern feminism, it's almost like women are encouraged from the time that they are born that they should get a job so they can work for some other, you know, do a load of work for some other man which isn't like their husband or whatever, so that they can then earn money to pay somebody else to look after their child rather than them. Do you know what I mean? It's like the more you think about it, the more it's like, well, if women weren't almost like, or at least if some women weren't almost like encouraged that that's almost like somehow bad. I think a lot of women have been brought up like that nowadays. It's almost like you're not making enough of yourself, or why aren't you just like a CEO, like a man, or like? But it's like, as I said, I think that being a mother is as honourable and as important a job as any job on the face of the earth. So rather than almost like belittling women and making it that that's not good enough, why don't we empower women and encourage them and make them see that that is such a decent and honourable and respectable job? And then, rather than earning money to pay someone else to look after your kids, you can look after them yourself, run the house, which is insanely important. That's basically like to run almost like the admin of a home and a family is so important as well. And then, you know, and then your partner, hopefully, if you've got like a decent bloke, can go out and then bring the bread home, as they say, you know, can bring the money back down while you're basically holding the fort. You're like running the operation while your husband is then bringing home the money. And don't get me wrong, I understand that that's not always an option for every woman, because it requires everyone to play ball. It requires a responsible man that's willing to do that for his family, and a responsible woman that's willing to embrace motherhood, being a wife, and everything that comes along with that as well.
I find it interesting as well, like how even if you don't think that is something that you want to do, how when you get into a situation in your life, like natural things can happen, or you can change your opinion on it. Because I know like Meg definitely she didn't want kids. She was like, I can't imagine it with the way that she's like living her life in normal, the way that she has been for years and stuff. It's like it's not even there. It's like
when you first
career, work, like things interest you into, doing your own thing, almost a little bit like, you know, what can life give me? Like what excitement can I find out of life? How can I, you know? But then the actual gift that having a child gives you that isn't even something that you would have even thought about before. Yeah. It's just there. It's like, whoa. Do you know what I mean? It's like a very natural thing.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. Yeah.
So I think some people can grow up and like be in a certain mindset and think that they're going to be like that, but then it can all change, you know.
Yeah, because I remember when you first were like going out with Megan. To be fair, obviously she's a little bit younger than us. So when you started going out with her, she would have been even younger still. But I remember it was almost like she just wasn't like, it wasn't even on the radar at all. No. She wasn't really bothered about even thinking about it. But I also think like along with what you said, I think that like what's a bit sad as well is that some people are so dismissive even of the idea of having kids nowadays, and it's almost like their idea is like, well, I could have kids, but it would be a bit of an inconvenience because I like wouldn't be able to go out whenever I want and stuff like that. And I think the idea that like you would compare, I don't know, almost like the freedom of just being able to go out whenever you want compared to the, do you know what I mean? Like compared to the fulfillment of having a kid, to me is almost like crazy. But I think, to be fair, I think that maybe you could only appreciate that once you actually have had a kid, which is obviously ironic. But I think it's like, you know, some people that you know that maybe that don't have kids, and I'm sure you feel like this nowadays as well, Drew. I almost feel like even though that they will probably never realise it themselves, it's like a shame that they haven't had kids. Or it's a shame that they're probably never going to have kids as well. And it almost makes me feel like a bit almost like gutted for them. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like
there's this wholesome part of that life that is very fulfilling. and it's not as flashy as like what it's like to just be able to just go out and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But there's almost like a deeper fulfillment that is like that is awesome, and everyone should have the honor of experiencing. You know, like for their own sakes, not for not for anyone else.
I also think there's also an element of it where it's like, unless you are literally like a Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan type figure, which is like 0.0000000 recurring for like 100,000,001%, of like the most famous people that are ever going to walk the face of the earth. Like, if you don't have kids, your legacy is just going to be forgotten. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of how successful you are in life, your friends are going to remember you until they die, but then most of your friends are somewhere around your age, within the sort of 10, 20 year age gap of you yourself. So they're probably going to die around the same time as you. Some of their kids might vaguely remember you, but how emotionally invested are they going to be in like, I remember like my dad's mate? They don't want to tell stories about that to their kids. They're going to tell stories about their kids about you and stuff like that. So it's almost like
you want to live in legacy.
Yeah, your legacy will pass on through your kids. The same way, like I can say open, I'm really interested in my ancestry. So I'm really interested in like my great-granddad, my granddad's dad, who was like a sergeant in the First World War and a dentist and a boat builder and all of that. And I was learning about another one of my great-grandfathers on my mother's side of the family the other day who was like really interesting. Do you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? I'm interested in all of them, and that's really intriguing to me. And like almost like imagining what they were like, and almost like wishing that I could almost have like a way to just have a conversation with them, just to see what they were like and stuff like that. But like obviously to anybody else of that generation, they would just be some random person to me, so I'm not interested. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like you have to have your own family for almost like some sort of legacy, and that's nice in a way, because then it's like your memory's still kept alive somehow. Yeah,
and just the chain that has gone on from inception of the universe to right now, leading up to you in that in that timeline of just like that just stopping at you. When it's been like thousands of years in the making.
Yeah, that's almost spinny as well.
Yeah, that could just be like,
and that almost seems like a shame as well. And when you think of it in that way, it seems crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like ever since the dawn of Homo sapiens, the dawn of mankind, or even further back than that,
there's been this chain, just
even like Homo erectus, the first upright ape. Ever since the first Homo erectus that evolved, there's been this lineage all the way down to you. And then nowadays, because you think it's a bit of an inconvenience to have a kid, or you can't be bothered, or you'd rather spend your money on something else, that's just now gone forever. Literally forever. Because once it's gone, there's no getting it back, is there? Obviously, it's just it. That's just gone. That's your line gone.
Yeah, that's very spinny to me, that one.
It's like with you and your brothers, Bullwinkle. It's like if you and Josh or Jake never have a kid, that's it. That's your distinct branch of your family just wiped out forever. Literally,
yeah, it's crazy.
Forever. Existential crisis.
I can't wait to have kids.
Yeah, man. I think I can tell that you're sort of up for it. Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah.
I don't think I want them like until I was a certain age.
Until you met the right lady.
Exactly.
You got to meet the right lady, man.
Exactly.
You don't want to be knocking up any old bird, do you?
But I don't know. I think the bits I really look forward to with kids are like like playing sports with them, or like teaching them stuff that I've learned and seeing them grow as a person. I mean, it's just like you say, it's not anything that you can. I don't imagine you can get a feeling like that from anything else in the world.
Oh no, it's great, man. So rewarding. So much fun, and I think you just naturally think about them all the time. And whenever you do think about them back in your head, you're like, can't wait to see that little sucker later on, or whatever,
that little
tyke. Yeah. And even little things like, obviously, this is our Pandora's Box Christmas special. Like little things like Christmas become way more like magical and fun again.
And I can even tell from like, even though Ruben's not going to understand this first Christmas at all, just the vibe of our household has just changed this year, just completely to last year. And like we've got a nice fresh tree, like that, like a proper tree and everything. And like Meg's making such an effort with just all this little stuff, and it's just beautiful. It's
like even though, as you said, he won't remember. Because I remember me and Emma like this as well on Evie's first Christmas. Like, it's still his first ever Christmas, which is a major thing. So you're obviously going to take pictures of him on the day, like next to his little presents and that.
Yeah, she took him for a little photo shoot the other day.
And in 2 or 3 years, when he is like more cognitively aware, you can show them the
look,
pictures
this
to be
is
like,
your
do
first
you remember this?
Christmas.
And they'll be like, no, but they'll be like, oh, it's amazing. Do you know what I mean? And that'll be really cool for them to be like, oh, that's so cool. Like mum and dad did this for me when I was a little baby, and we dressed Evie up as almost like a tiny little like elf outfit on Christmas Day. And then she obviously was just like completely bold and like all chubby at the time, but was in this little elf outfit, and it's just freaking hilarious looking back at the pictures, and she loves it.
Yeah, man.
If we show her the pictures and that, she loves it, you know.
It's good as well. It's like the little things you do with your family are like your thing that is going to be able to like put a different vibe into the world. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it starts with yourself and it starts with your family and that, and it's even just like now just thinking about stuff like what we want Christmas to be like and that, and it's about like little, like rather than like decorations on the tree that's just everything's like all like loads of baubles and that, it's all these like little handmade little felt things and stuff, and it's just like seems quite like homely and more like special in that, and it's like it gives you a chance to like mess around with that kind of thing and like and kind of figure out what you want your family's Christmases to be like, and your little traditions that you have with your family, because they're the things that are going to last out into the next generation as well, if you like, you know, what's important to you and stuff, you know.
I feel like Christmas feels more like it seems in like a Christmas movie when you've got a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like watched like Muppet Christmas Carol the other day with Em and Evie. And it's just like, it makes Christmas almost seem like that, like the whole vibes and that.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, loving it. Apart from obviously, hopefully not some Scrooge around.
Yeah. Steer clear of the Scrooge.
Should we finish the show on like a really random one?
Yeah, can I give a little random one as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you heard about the Japanese KFC thing on Christmas?
Yes,
Have you?
I have. Yeah, it's a tradition, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how
massive
weird...
bucket of KFC, like
and yeah, again, we were talking about how the Japanese had a massive culture shift. So just to go back to that, so like obviously, up until the Axis forces lost the war, the Second World War. So like the Germans and the Japanese lost the war. Obviously, they were this like brutal culture. Then obviously once they surrendered, they basically had a completely societal shift. Nowadays, the Japanese people probably seem like some of the most sound people on the planet. Like really peaceful, really polite, just really decent people. You think of Japan,
lovely designs.
All I think of, like pre-1945, all you'd think of is like brutality, like killing, warrior, but like warrior to the point of just like almost over the top. Do you know what I mean? Like warrior with no mercy. So it's like... But now I just think of like Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, like
Master,
like all of their great engines, Suzuki, Honda, Toyota, you know, Mitsubishi. You think about all of that.
Charvel and Jackson guitars out of the Japanese factory in 1980.
Yeah, you also think about just things like all of the isn't like Sony Japanese and that. You think about all of those like successful like technology companies. Yeah, all of those
Yamaha.
Yamaha.
The musical instruments even just from Yamaha, but then
motorbikes. They do motorbikes and everything.
Yeah,
boats, like boat engines.
The only thing
sorts.
I don't think they do is cars. Like I can't think of Yamaha cars,
No.
but like the motocross bikes, the
quad bikes.
racing bikes, and they're all
said
amazing.
boat engines, quad bikes. Yeah, but then randomly like
musical
guitars.
instruments.
And
And like one of the best saxophones you can get is like a Yamaha Yas 62, and that's like a beautiful saxophone, you know. And I feel like metal, brass, like. You know?
I feel like almost like regardless of what type of Yamaha you're getting as well, whether it's almost like an engine or a musical instrument, they're all known for being like incredibly good value for money. You know, like really, like you get a lot of bang for your buck. It's like my electroacoustic, isn't it? Acoustic.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It only cost me like £600, but it's like you could definitely find.
It's high end. Yeah.
You could definitely find like £900 guitars out there that wouldn't be as good, I reckon.
I remember as well, like Lyle used to have like a Yamaha acoustic and an acoustic. Do you remember? He had like a dreadnought as well.
Yeah.
And like I remember I played
really
that, and that was like the first Yamaha I'd ever played, and he was just like, oh yeah, it's just a cheap guitar, but I played
really
it and it just played real nice, like.
Oh yeah, that rings a bell now. Actually,
Yeah,
I remember he had that red Yamaha bass as well. And Willie had the same one.
Yeah,
that was the
nice.
bit bass that Willie had that got stolen in the Czech
Yeah.
Republic. Wasn't it? I remember I was talking to Willie about that not that long ago, and he was saying that was a real nice bass.
Yeah,
he said he really liked playing it. Yeah, sadly that's gone somewhere. Some Czech thieves stole it. But yeah, going on to your point, mental, innit? So like. Japan changed mentally, like became more Godzilla, less killing people, and it's like become like a tradition in Japan for everyone to eat KFC on Christmas Day. That's mad, isn't it? They just go there and like, we need our Christmas KFC.
I wouldn't mind that, to be fair.
Yeah, it sounds pretty
Love
banging.
me a good KFC.
It's my favourite fast food. You know, I've all those fast food chains like McDonald's, Burger King,
Still on the bone.
like Taco Bell, KFC. Mate, to me, it's like not even a competition. I'd go KFC all the way, every day. Yeah, let's start it. This is a really random one. Finish it off on just some interesting trivia, which I thought would be a nice, interesting thing to finish it. I'm not, admittedly, not that Christmassy. But what animal scares you the most? Would you say, both of you?
Ooh.
If there's like an animal on the planet that scares you the most, just gives you that feeling of visceral fear.
In the presence of it at the time, probably like between like a bear or like a tiger.
Really?
A bear or a tiger, yeah.
Right. I think those are sensible options.
But then like I've seen videos of like people feeding a bear off a spoon and that, and when they're like when they're quite tame, I'm like, I'd love to give that a cuddle. But like but
so rare, and those ones are like being brought up since cubs, and and even then I still think it's dodge.
You get these Russian videos of like people like jumping on the back of a bear and that, and him just like wandering around and stuff, or like feeding them with a spoon. But
what about so if you had to say what would you say out of tiger and bear, if you had to pick one, which one do you think would be most scary for you?
I'd probably actually say
I think
tiger.
I think a tiger would be more likely to kill you quickly. Yeah, I think a tiger would see you.
Because they're fast. Well, I mean, bears are fast as well, but I don't know. I just think maybe keep out of the way of the bear and it probably wouldn't be too interested, but I can imagine a tiger stalking you.
Unless it was a polar bear, there's a chance that a brown bear and a black bear wouldn't even try and kill you. Yeah. It might just see you, and as long as you weren't like, it didn't just see you as a threat, as long as it wasn't like starving, it might just leave you alone. Polar bears are different. Polar bears would probably try and kill you straight away. But a tiger, 100% would kill you. I don't think there's a chance that if you were like within killing distance of a tiger, it would see you and let you live.
I saw this thing the other of like a guy who'd fell in a tiger enclosure, and he died. Like he was just standing there. He was like praying, and he was just like in front of this tiger, and it was just looking at him, and then it just grabbed him and like by the neck and just dragged him off.
I watched a really sketchy video of a guy riding a motorbike in India, and he's got like a little like helmet cam on, that people have in case they get in an accident and that for like insurance purposes. And he's just like going down. He's probably going like 40 miles an hour or something. And then this tiger just comes out of the freaking bushes. He goes, and it like running alongside him like that, leaps towards him, and it misses him by like a couple of inches. And you just think, oh my god, that was so close. Yeah. And it's mad to think that there are like certain parts of India where like that could happen. Like there could just be a tiger like waiting in the bushes for like someone on a bike to pass, and then just like trying to pounce on you. But and have you guys seen that famous one of that guy like on an elephant in India, and the tiger jumps up at the elephant and freaking like claws the freaking man?
No.
And they ripped the guy's leg open. It was trying to pull the guy off an elephant to eat him.
That's insane.
Tigers are like ruthless, man.
Yeah. I'd reckon a tiger.
Because I think it's like they just would kill you and eat you. I remember hearing that as well. It's like if you were like in the presence of like a lion or a tiger, they would just almost just like kill you and eat you. You know, they say with some animals it's like they would kill you because they thought you were a threat, or like a threat to their children, or some sort of accident. But like they know what they're doing. They just want to eat you, like straight up eat you. What about you, Bullwinkle? What do you reckon's the animal that scares you the most?
So I've got a couple different answers. One, I'd say maybe some sort of like shark.
Oh, Matt, that would be me. Great white shark.
Just big shadow in the ocean.
I just think the idea of almost just being like stranded at sea for whatever reason. Say I was on a boat and it sank, and I'm not within swimming distance of land. The idea that I'm just like paddling, and then I just start seeing like a dark shape in the water, or even the idea that I don't even see it, and then it just comes up from beneath, and then just bites me in half, and then the last thing I see is just like all this blood pouring out of my torso while I'm just like floating in the ocean, and I just see this like shark going off with my legs in its mouth, and that's the last thing I see before I just die of blood loss. Or, do you know what I mean? That is, to me, that is a horrible thought.
Nasty way to go, man.
That is brutal, isn't it? That is so brutal.
But I would also say, if we're talking about ones that I might actually see, maybe like just a mean looking bug, like a mean looking like wasp or a hornet or something. think,
I like how it's like something that
nearly had you
couldn't
before.
even kill you, but you're just like terrified of a wasp.
But you never know, man. Do you remember when we went and did the Boat with the Moon video?
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
And there
stunned.
were those like massive red hornets. that were
What the
flying
hell
around.
even were they? To this day, I don't know what that was. It was like some exotic wasp species. It was like black and red.
Yeah, that was weird.
I've
man.
never seen that ever again before, after, or since. Like, since
There was one in the
UK.
world, and it got me.
Yeah, there were several flying around. They were quite aggressive because they kept like flying up to us, didn't they?
Mm.
And then we went to that bird place, and there was like the regular wasps there, but they were right because it was like regular ones, so I felt a bit more like. Not so, do you know what I mean? It was a bit more like normal. I mean, the wasps are always annoying, but I remember it was really making me laugh through because your tactic was just to go. It was really cracking me. A wasp would go in and you go. Do you remember that? And we just caught loads in that glass, but Bullwinkle just kept like jumping up and just running off.
Yeah.
You're like we're just running around, man. That was so funny.
That
I
was a
just
good
don't
one.
like how hostile they are.
They're very aggressive, aren't they?
They're always they've always got a problem with me for some reason.
Yeah.
whenever see
I
them.
just imagine them like, but massive. Like that would be mental, and like, or like ants or anything, or
Or like a praying mantis.
yeah.
Imagine that.
At like the size of us,
Yeah.
you know. Like
If a praying mantis was the size of us, it would be like as scary as
problem.
like the alien from the Alien movies.
yeah, yeah.
because
literally.
they're like their strength, like pound for pound, is insane as well, isn't
That's
it?
what they're based off, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so.
Well, there you go. There you go.
I think so.
I reckon if a praying mantis was the size of the average man, I reckon it could like pick up a car and throw it.
Oh,
I reckon
yeah,
that's
definitely.
I reckon that's how strong
It proper
would be.
freaked me out because like loads of people's like trip reports on like ayahuasca and or like DMT and that are like seeing these like alien praying mantis beings that are massive.
I don't know.
And I'm like, I hate the idea of
yeah, that
It's like
sounds sketchy.
But
man.
apparently they're actually like in the
Benign.
trips. Yeah, they're like helping you. They're like doctors trying to like help you, like, you know, like and stuff. But I'm like, nah.
It's really weird when
Keep
things
them away from me.
Yeah, see, that sounds almost like a nightmare, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's mad when people report like seeing the same thing on trips.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, or not even trips. Well, I guess it can be described as a trip, I guess, but like one way you're not taking in outside, you know, medications, drugs or whatever. But when people have like see the same things with like sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And that's why like even the term nightmare comes from, because it's like one of the common ones is being like it's
Oh,
like
the mare.
yeah, you're being visited by
The hag.
by the nightmare, and that's where the term nightmare comes from. Like you've been visited by the nightmare. Yeah, because it's like a common thing in sleep paralysis is like seeing like this like hag-like woman, which is the first ever thing I saw out of my two sleep paralysis.
I haven't been visited.
I'm
by
really
the hag
hoping
yet.
my one visits me again. Do you
You're
remember
hoping
last
it
time I
does?
had one? It was the.
Did you say you were hoping it does?
Do you remember I had like that that like weird thing that came and like injected me with something, then it like
Yeah.
cured me of being ill? That's
Yeah,
what
that's
I need
weird.
right now, man. I need to go to
yeah.
bed today
Imagine-
and wake up with someone like. With
That
a
sounds
needle
like
to my
some
neck.
sort of like alien experience.
Yeah.
Don't it?
Yeah.
It's mental. Like I think I remember thinking it was mental the next day, but when I think of it like back now, it like almost is even more mental than I realised then. Like I had sleep paralysis where some weird like figure came up to me and like injected something in my neck while I was ill, and then I woke up and my illness was just gone.
That is weird.
That's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
especially because the sleep paralysis feels really real at the time as
Yeah.
well. Because
Yeah, I remember the UFC, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, George St. Pierre, who's freaking like a legend as well, just because he's like such a nice guy and also like very intelligent. Like yet again, a guy that really likes dinosaurs and stuff like that. And I always think it's like to be such a almost like one of the best UFC fighters of all time, but to be such a gentleman and such a nice guy is almost like that's cool. That's just cool, isn't it? That's just really cool. Like almost like he wouldn't hurt a hair on anything, but he's just like such a good, like an amazing athlete. But I've heard him on like lots of podcasts and that, and he's had loads of accounts of like blackouts where he just can't account for time, where he'll like look at a clock and then like 5 hours has passed.
I remember
and
you
it
saying
looks
about
like,
this one before. Yeah.
and he was saying, I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast. He was saying that he's even because he sat around and thought like, what the hell is happening during this? And he said that he's been in the car before and like he felt like something weird's happened while he's in the car, like almost like someone's watching him, and then he suddenly realised that he was like driving home and it was like 10:30 p.m. and then suddenly it says 2:30 a.m. and he's in the car but in the same place and that, and he's like, what is happening right now? 'Cause he's French Canadian, and he was saying that he's wondered, like, imagine if he was such a dominant fighter because he was getting abducted and almost like made to be this like amazing warrior by this like alien race, and he was saying he's like actually wondered it because he said that like he doesn't understand like You know what I mean? Like, for example, like, he never really tried that hard with his diet or anything.
Oh, yeah, that's what you were saying.
But he always had, like,
yeah.
an action figure sort of physique.
Yeah.
But he said he was like, even in training camp, I would eat McDonald's and blah, blah, but always had this, like, six-pack, big, round deltoids. Like, you know that almost just that stereotypical, like, action figure, like, physique that you have when you're a kid, where every, like, action figure you have is just jacked. He just always had that. Like, literally considered, like, one of the pound-for-pound greatest, like, fighters of all time. But he's, like, just, like, he's thinking, like, why did I get that talent from somewhere else? Like, yeah.
I love the idea that some aliens are out there just, like, betting on him each week. And just to make sure they win their bet, they're, like, pumping him up.
The Men in Black. The Men in Black
are.
Yeah, just experimenting on him, making him, like, almost like a perfect human fighter. And then just the Men in Black are just betting on him. Making some dough.
That's it.
Yeah. It's almost with like Star Wars and things like that. There's like quite a funny like comedic element. It's like serious, but then also like comedic with like the other races and that. It all seems like the little bars that they have and stuff. And it does make me think, like, imagine if there is like stuff like that going on. Like we take life so seriously, but really just aliens are up there just betting on us and like just doing like, weird like, stuff like that.
That would be cool. Yeah, that'd be well cool, man.
It's all just a joke.
Yeah, that'd be well cool.
Millipedes as well.
What, you're scared of millipedes?
I don't like millipedes.
There are some like really giant poisonous ones in some countries, aren't there?
Oh, man. If I like woke up in bed and there was like a millipede just like scuttling towards me, I think I'd just end it there. I think that'd be it.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
On a slightly different one, so we've talked about animals. What paranormal entity scares you the most?
Ooh.
Do you reckon?
That one that you said about the reptilian like crawling at the end of your mum's bed.
Oh,
that one.
Reptilian demon.
Yeah, reptilian demon. All right.
Yeah, that's quite sketchy. I think that like the idea of demons and that is like the most scary thing to me. Like, I'm not really scared of ghosts.
No, me neither. I think that they could almost be like trapped spirit, like, you know, spirits with a bit of issues.
Although Tracy reckons that all ghosts
are demons,
and that it's like a con. That's what she thinks.
Yeah, well, just that anything that is trying to manipulate you. Yeah, you know what I mean. From the outside thing, like demonically or something. Like, that's my biggest like thing. Like they don't even want. They want to be in the secret. They don't want you knowing what they are or who they are. Or
but
anything.
They at the same time are like just enjoying, just almost like making you feel pure terror.
Yeah. Like that's that whole conspiracy thing. I think that was like part of the reptilian thing as well. Is like they're actually feeding off our energy and our
that's
fear
like Cthulhu in the H.P. Lovecraft thing. You know, that's like, you know, in the thing that should not be. If you read the lyrics of that, it's almost like, I can't remember the lyrics off the top of my head, but I remember thinking, it's like because it's about Cthulhu, isn't it, and stuff. Because like James Hetfield's written several songs about it, isn't he? It's like the whole thing with Cthulhu is like he's almost like he's encouraging. Yeah, he's like the source of all the nightmares of people in the world. But at the same time, the more people that have them and everything, the stronger he gets. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that freaks me out.
And I can't remember. There's a term for something. There's actually a term for it, like a proper term. And I'm annoyed at myself that I don't know it off the top of my head. But for basically how you can create something just by believing in it as well. So it almost goes hand in hand. Yeah, so it goes hand in hand. But no, so it is manifesting. But there's an actual term for like if you believe something enough.
Conjuring?
No. It's like a specific. You know how like the uncanny valley is like that thing where if you're like, you know, we all have an inherent fear of things that look like humanoids, but like a bit off. It's like that.
The act of thinking of them creates them.
Yeah, there's like a term for it. There's actually a term for this thing where like if enough people think something, it will become real. But like, obviously, that's mad, isn't it?
I remember
you think about it, and you're like, how can that make sense? Like, you know,
I remember Hamilton Salva talking about that and saying that, like, in ayahuasca visions, you can bring these different like shared because so many people have shared thoughts about them. That's almost the thing. Like, so it's like the same things. Like, a lot of them was with the Norse gods and stuff like that.
Yes.
It was like he could call like Thor into the ceremony and stuff, and people could have an experience of that like entity of Thor. But the reason he exists more is because of people believing in them and worshipping him and stuff like that. And it was like that intrigued me because it was like And what's that? There's this like film, and it's like an old fantasy film. And as a part of it, the the witch or whatever is scared about people.
Merlin?
Is it Merlin?
With Sam Neill?
And they know that she knows that it's the lady by the lake or something like that. And like,
yeah, I think you're thinking about Merlin. We watched it together years ago.
And it was people are going to stop believing them, so they're not going to exist anymore.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the movie and through the whole of the movie, she's almost like the main antagonist. And Merlin's almost like battling her, and even though Merlin's like the most powerful wizard, because she's like a god, he's like not strong enough to fight her. I think her name's Mab.
Yes,
Mab. But it's like I think she's supposed to be like one of the druidic like goddesses of the like druidic pagan pantheon. And then in the end, because he couldn't ever defeat her by like might versus might, even though he's like the most powerful human wizard. So eventually he realises that the only way to do it is almost like just to ignore her, and then he encourages every other human to do it, and she's like, no, and then she just like she just disappears.
Yeah.
She like fades. She just like
so that's
fades
like the same
nothing.
concept, isn't it? Really, like of
yeah.
And
I think it's like in a way it almost makes you realise in that regard. And I'm not saying that like necessarily all the actual pagan gods were like flying through the sky or whatever, but like if you think about it, think about how like energy is a concept. If you think about all of Scandinavia and all of like the UK and that used to like freaking sacrifice like animals and humans to like all these pagan gods, and were constantly doing these ceremonies and these rituals, and had these like every society had their like shamans like praying and trying to communicate with the gods of their like specific pagan pantheon. And it was the same obviously in like ancient Greece with their pagan pantheon of like Zeus and all of them lot. Then it's like that's some our energy's going somewhere, isn't it? Energy's going to somewhere. Like that energy's going somewhere. If you're like killing a load of virgins and like drowning the earth with like the blood all like in the name of Zeus, then that's going somewhere, isn't it? It's almost like you are creating some sort of entity, even if he's not like in like a physical form the way that we think of something like another human being. Interesting. Anyway, what about you, Bullwinkle? What do you reckon's your most? I
think probably anything anthropomorphic. Like,
yeah?
Do you remember when we were talking about that one of the like cat thing? Was it the Aurum entity?
Yes. Oh,
man.
Yeah, I think it was like it was something like that, wasn't it?
Stuff like that.
Something entity. Yeah.
I think for me, it's anything that's like sinister. It's not just necessarily anything that.
To me, that goes hand in hand with the demon thing, though, because I think the demons are like most come across as the most sinister. I also think something that's inherently scary about demons as well. If you had an encounter that made you believe in the existence of a demon strongly enough, then that sort of implies then the existence of hell and maybe Satan as well, which then just opens up a whole other can of worms.
Even like you think of like Jesus as well, and like he described even in like like the Lord's Prayer, it says deliver us from the evil one. Oh. That is like in like so even something that's supposed to be like connected like in that way of like that freaks me out, because that just puts that whole thing of like who is the evil one?
Oh man, it's a bit mental, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's mistranslated. It's not deliver us from evil, it's deliver us from the evil one. That's like
do you reckon they deliberately
translation
changed that because it was less menacing? Do you reckon they did that so it's less scary to like little kids? Because it's mainly little kids in school now that have to like read that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Deliver us from the evil
really
one.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't realise that, but I saw an older translation of it and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. What can you think of, like what horror movie scared you the most out of all the horror movies you ever watched? Can you think of one that like left you feeling a bit scarred? Had trouble sleeping that week or something like that?
The one that freaked me out just the most because it was like pretending to be real was like, or had me on the most on the edge of the seat was Paranormal Activity one.
Oh yeah.
Just because it was
that freaked me out the first time I saw it.
Yeah, it wasn't that thing of like like gory or anything like that. It was like, wow, mate.
I'll tell you what freaked me out about it.
I thought it was real.
Yeah, going back to the demonic thing, what freaked me out, I remember the moment that freaked me out about it the most was like throughout
the hoof prints. Yeah,
it wasn't hoof prints though, was it? It was almost like reptilian, almost like a pointy...
Like bird claw print.
Oh, it was horrible. I remember thinking almost like up until that point that it was like this malevolent spirit.
Yeah.
And that didn't really freak me out. But the movie was quite freaky in general. But then as soon as they left down the talcum powder or the flour...
that was a bit that got me as well.
And then they saw that... I remember I was like, oh, nah, that's freaking... That's sketchy. That is sketchy. Because whenever that came out, like 2009, something like that, and I remember going to the cinema to watch it, and I was like in the cinema, oh, that is freaking sketchy.
Because it says like all this is real footage, or like they actually try and
they
pretend
hammed it up, didn't they? They hammed it up.
Hereditary freaked me out quite a bit when I watched that.
I've not seen that.
I don't know if I've seen it either.
Good movie.
Isn't it like
film.
Isn't it like Is that like a sequel to like Insidious or something like that?
No,
it's completely different.
I
completely
thought
different.
Insidious was pretty freaky.
It's about like witches, like witchcraft, kind of.
Right.
But
I think I can picture the antagonist
It's a really
in
good
it.
movie. It's
like
a really
long
good
hair.
movie.
Is it like the antagonist almost got like long hair and it's like creepy looking dude, or it might be a chick? I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've watched it. To be fair, I wouldn't have said he had long hair, but I could be completely wrong. But yeah, there's one scene in that movie that was terrifying, man. It was like I'll try and should I spoil it? Should I spoil the scene?
Let's just say, spoiler alert.
Spoiler
so people
alert.
can just like skip this a little bit if they want to, or just turn down the volume for a minute. Yeah, go on.
So there was this scene like right at the start where the grandmother dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the mother's like searching, looking through her stuff, and she sort of finds some of this like weird witchy stuff. And the only bit that was like really scary about the scene is building tension really well, building tension. And then she leaves, or she like, I'm trying to think exactly how it goes. I think she might like switch off the light, right? And as she switches off the light, the grandmother's just like there in a chair, just like smiling at her like this, almost doing this like really creepy, horrifying smile. And
nice.
But it's literally only for like a split second. So there's even a bit of yourself who's like, whoa, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? And then it's just gone.
Yeah, that's
it's
not
insane,
very nice, is it?
but really, really cool scene.
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy. I think the movie that scared me the most, even though it would seem antiquated to a lot of people nowadays, is I remember when I was like proper like young kid and I watched The Devil Rides Out.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh,
No,
mate, it's quite like a cult classic, legendary horror
I've
movie.
definitely heard of it. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why it's quite almost like a controversial film in sort of like in like circles of people that actually believe in all of that, like Satanism and witchcraft and that. It's because
Didn't it get cursed? Like, wasn't it quite a cursed set and stuff? Or was that?
I can't remember if it was cursed. Some movies were like Poltergeist, but it was all the incantations and everything that they use in the movie were from like real black magic books. Whereas in most movies they just make them up. It's just like higgledy piggledy. There'll be like some Latin incantation, and like in real life it would mean like, I want lamb with my supper, mother. Do you know what I mean? But it's like in the movie, it's like Argo Darji Badada. Yeah, so like all of the incantations and everything in The Devil Rides Out are from like real black magic books and like Satanism and all that stuff. So a lot of people that are like God fearing like refuse to watch it because they say it's like sketchy. Like like if you watch that in your home, that's like they're saying that's like coming out the speakers in your home, and it's like opening like up bad juju in your own home. Damn. But obviously, as like a young kid, that wasn't what bothered me. I remember there was just a scene where it's like this guy, and I can't remember. It's like I can't remember if it's Christopher Lee or not, but because he is one of the main like protagonists in the movie. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things where it's like there's this secret society, and then he follows them into the woods, and he's like waiting in the tree line, it's like seeing what they're doing. And it just looks like they're like chatting and everything, but then like this freaking demon slowly comes from like on this rock. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like he's invisible, but then he just comes through and he's there. He's called the Goat of Mendes, and the Goat of Mendes is this like real, probably demonic, probably like demon is the best way to describe it, but it's called the Goat of Mendes. And I don't know what it was about it, but it just freaked the crap out of me when I was a little kid. There's like other freaky parts in the movie, there's other parts of the movie as well that are pretty sketchy. There's a scene where like like death comes into the room, like, and it's almost like Satan sent him, and it's like a pale rider's coming, and they have to like stand in this like sacred circle and that to like try and like survive, and it's quite like an intense scene.
I want to watch that now.
You should watch it.
Cool.
I do recommend it. I think it's almost like apart from
I might be able
else,
to get through it now.
Yeah, I think you would. You definitely would. And I think the fact that it's antiquated makes it a little bit easier in a way because you can appreciate the charm of it. But the charm of it being quite old takes away maybe a little bit from the terror. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think it's like cool to watch it even for like a little bit of cinematic history. Do you know what I mean? If you're like into just like cinema and how cinema's evolved and just almost like watching like classics, it's quite cool in that regard. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, like just a classic Christopher Lee one. Well, I think we're going to leave it there for our Christmas special, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
Thanks for joining us today. We've talked about some
Christmas.
It's a dark Christmas for us
Yes.
this year. We've talked about some Christmas tragedies and about some stuff that really freaks us out.
Yeah.
But we're getting it all out of our
mixture.
system, ladies and gentlemen, because now it's just nothing but pure merriment and partying going into the new year. So yeah. That's
We both
hilarious.
said that.
Oh yeah, mince pies. So yeah, go get yourself a mince pie. It's time to feel jolly. We hope that you've dwelled on all of this stuff with us. Let us know what what the paranormal entity is that scares you the most. Let us know what movie you've watched the most that scared you the most, and animal scares you the most. Send it in to us. Probably the best way is just on our Pandora's Box Instagram. Just send us a little message. Let us know if you want to get involved in the show, and we'll give you a shout out. We'll read out on air what your what stuff scares you the most. Mm-hmm. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a beautiful Christmas. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again for another Pandora's Box.